So good evening to people in India. Good morning to people from USA. Welcome
Thank you.
welcome all of you for today's webinar on cybersecurity for independent India, organized by Pride Energy Environment Research Resource Institute, and uh, with the support of Rotary District 3190 and Rotaract 3190 and the Rotary Green Park. For the welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Pride Energy and Environment Resource Research Institute, it is my great pleasure to welcome Rotarian Sri Nagendra Prasad, District Governor, Rotary Club, Bangalore, India. We would like to extend a special welcome to our guest of honor, Mr. Christopher Roebling, founder, Clearspan Strategic, and former Chief Election Commissioner of Chicago, Illinois, USA. Very soon, Dr. Srini Mirmiri, President of Blue Ridge Networks USA, he will be joining in any minute. And also, I would like to welcome Michael Stelwak, a leading cybersecurity expert, Principal, Clearspan Strategic, USA and Middle East and North Africa region. And it's a great pleasure to present you here a young cybersecurity specialist, Mr. Shravan from Bangalore, and he is associated with Clearspan Strategic on sales and marketing. Clearspan Strategic India, Energy Environment Division, and with great enthusiasm, we welcome the chairman and Pride Institution, President of Rotary Club Green Park, Bangalore, the Chief Technical Officer of Clearspan Strategic Energy Division India, the only one, Rotarian Sri Ramesh Shivanna. It is so wonderful to see you all virtually here on the great Independence Day of India. Today is a special day which inspires you all with ideas and discussions on cyber security for independent India. And it is proudly organized Club Bangalore. The internet made the world smaller in recent years. In many ways, almost 49% of the world population is connected to the internet. About 1 trillion devices will be connected by 2035. Just imagine the seriousness of threat of vulnerable attacks, what we are getting worldwide every day. So this is one of the major impacts in our system, in our tools, in the corporations, and it is very important to tackle in the time. Safety and security often sometimes misused or misunderstood daily in our workplace. Safety refers to accidental threats due to internal misbehavior or non-intentional misuse of the system. Whereas security refers to intentional threats. Safety deals with fault tolerance, while security deals with resistance to attacks. Hence, the society runs largely on technology as on today. We are also, as a result, dependent on it. Technology brings greater benefits and it also brings greater threats and by the very nature of opportunities. It becomes a focal point for cybercrime, cyber war, industrial and government espionage, and cyber attacks. This is the issue the whole world is experiencing as on today due to the revolution of IT technology. Therefore, protecting it is an important priority as on today. First cybersecurity discourse started in 1970 in the United States, and also the first US patent on cybersecurity was registered by Massachusetts Institute of Technology in 1983. And then the momentum of cybersecurity was started and became worldwide awareness since 1990. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility, such as people, processes, tools, and technologies work together to protect an organization's assets, such as confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the assets or data. The cybersecurity framework functions to identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. It restores normal operations and services to customers and end users. The technology experts from Blue Ridge Networks will share you all the state-of-the-art technologies developed and marketed past 25 years and their products to protect from the vulnerable cyber threats and attacks. Thanks. Thank you again to everyone for being here today to celebrate the great Independence Day of India. Let the celebrations continue with our cyber security awareness and solutions with the state-of-the-art technology and products. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Ilan. Thank you very much for your welcome address.
I would love to. Thank you, Doctor, and thank you all. It is a privilege to speak with you today from Chicago. I've asked my friend Michael Stellwag to add a photo. Michael, are you able to give us this photograph? Rotary started in this building. This is this building at 121 North Dearborn Street in Chicago was erected in 1890 and only a few years later hosted the very first Rotary meeting. That meeting was like a little acorn that now has grown into this vast oak of hundreds of Rotary clubs from Sao Paulo to Nome, Alaska, from Bangalore to Bangor, Maine. There are Rotary clubs in many hundreds of cities of the world, as all of you know, because Rotary, especially with its 4-part test, is it the truth? Is it fair to everyone? Does it build friendship and goodwill? Will it benefit everyone? Rotary, because of its 4-part test, grew from this building to the worldwide oak of which all of you in Bangalore are leaves and branches. And I'm very privileged to have addressed Rotary 1 here in Chicago on 2 occasions, both times about elections and the proper administration of a fair election. And I think of Rotary as one of the international associations of individuals who care about this world and who are willing to take time to go to their meeting, to see their fellow Rotarians, to hear what's happening in the community, and to decide on steps that meet the 4-part test. I will tell you as well that since I was a young child in school, we always heard about Rotary students who were able to go from one country to another to spend a year to learn about the world. And whereas I got to be an AFS student and I went to Finland, I want to tell you, Rotary students themselves have contributed vastly to the great legacy of Rotary. So that is my introduction from Chicago. And I thank Michael for sharing that with us. Michael, let's just take a look at the next slide, and I'll continue by saying Blue Ridge Networks is a very interesting company. Blue Ridge has been working in this field for 25 years and has been helping people, companies, government agencies, friends around the world. And I think that the cybersecurity world is becoming far better known today because of the many threats that are imperiling digital assets, as was said a moment ago by Dr. Elon. Cybersecurity is intended to protect the digital assets of an organization. And that's extremely important because we know, and you can see all of these different groups here, and there are many, many more, and other companies have other lists, et cetera. Let's go to the next slide and say that you want always, in the realm of cybersecurity, to prevent an attack before it happens, rather than to experience an attack and have to re-establish your digital ecosystem. So when we talk about preventing an attack, we're talking about taking steps now that anticipate your vulnerabilities. and really understanding that the vulnerabilities and the attack surfaces of your organization, there are, I'm sad to say there can be many, but we're going to focus on two today. Let's go to the next slide. When we are talking about cybersecurity, we are talking about a lot of different products that do a lot of different things. And you can see that there are products that identify, and there are products that protect or detect. There is only one product on the market because of the patents that actually prevents an attack. And that is Appgard. And that is the product of an enormous amount of understanding of the actual behavior of malware. When malware seeks to infect your system for whatever purpose it has been sent. Next slide. I'm now going to talk about two zeros. 0 day and zero trust. And I'd like everybody to, on your own piece of paper, write down 0 and 0. 0 day is the day on which malware arrives in your system. That's 0 day. Zero trust is what you see here. Zero trust is an assumption by providers of cybersecurity that everything is infected. So here's my laptop. Here's my HP laptop. You see, I voted. Okay. Here's my HP laptop. And good cybersecurity assumes it's infected, assumes that everything trying to get in to my laptop is trying to get in to hurt me and to hurt my organization. And so zero trust means that if there, as 0 day malware proceeds in your user space, we have endpoint, you see the first block there, endpoint detection and response and antivirus. That's one type of approach to malware. Another is machine learning and EDR. A third is our whitelisting and next generation. So let me tell you, I'll speak briefly about those in a moment, but on 0 day, the day the malware comes into your user space, your laptop, that malware has to be prevented from going from your user space across into either your system space or your organization's system space. When we're talking about cybersecurity, we are talking about keeping the malware where it is, because there's so many ways for it to get into your computer. Keep it there and keep it under wraps so that it cannot execute by crossing into your system. whether that's the operating system of your personal laptop or the system of your company, the system of your ministry, the system of the municipality, the system of your university. All malware seeks to get through you into the system. And when zero-day malware is not stopped, not recognized, and not contained by your defense at the endpoint, that is when you are inviting it into your system, and you will have a lot to pay on the other side. So this is a very basic expression, but for those who are new to cybersecurity, what you try to do in this business is create a barrier so that zero-day malware is contained before it reaches into the system. Let's go, and so now we have endpoint detection and response and antivirus. That's an approach. It's a very valid approach, but however, endpoint detection and response depends on recognition. They have to recognize the particular malware. When you talk about machine learning and EDR, machine learning is machine learning about that malware. And finally, whitelisting and next-gen antivirus, that's all about understanding from the cybersecurity community what the malware is. And I'm here to say to you that all of these products are important. All of these products do important things. So some of them are absolutely terrific. What you'll experience in cybersecurity is you probably need to layer your protection so that you are taking every step to prevent the malware from crossing into your system. And one way you can do that is installing a prevention system, and the only prevention system now is Appgard. Let's continue to the next. So what is Appgard? It's a kernel-based agent, and it is designed to stop malware that behaves in a manner that it recognizes as corrupting to the system. And this is one of the brilliant insights behind prevention. All malware has to do something to get into the system space. So let's move along, I think. And if anyone recognizes Dr. Srini arriving, please let me know. So as I said, the applications and the endpoints are not necessarily designed for security. They're designed for the ease of use of the end user. So think of yourselves as the end users, the operators of the endpoints, and those endpoints are where many attacks, and especially polymorphic attacks, are initially lodged with operating systems. So what you can see here, 93% of all enterprise attacks are starting at a endpoint. And so if you protect your endpoints alone, if you do nothing else but protect your endpoints, then you are likely going to reduce your attack surface for malware distributors, and that is going to protect your organization. So now let's get into a little bit of the technological basis for prevention. As you can see on the left, we have malware code, which is in the user space in that graphic. And as I was saying before, the malware is going to do everything it can to get into your system space. As soon as it gets into your system space, you have been hacked. And that's where you really start paying a lot. So what you want to do is segment malicious code in your user space. So what we're saying here is your user space has been corrupted. There is malicious code there, and you want it to stay there, to segment that malicious code by keeping it in the user space. That is the first responsibility. Now, being polymorphic, meaning many different forms of attack, that malicious code is going to keep trying to get out. So we have this post-launch. And what's vitally important here is that when people are trying to prevent, you identify what happens in an organization, and what even happens with Appgard Solo is you have a list of high-risk applications, and you have a list of normal applications. And when there is activity in a high-risk application, like Java, like Chrome, like Adobe, when those are applications that are frequently used as conveyors for malicious code, Appgard isolates on those to watch behavior and prevent penetration. Next, on the right-hand side, you see our inheritance. This is all patented now. Our inheritance capabilities will provide the same level of security to a child process as was provided to the parent origination. This is absolutely important, and because of the patents, we're the only ones who do this. So when you get in this graphic, you see a letter, an email, and you get that email and it says, hey, we want you to go click on this link. You open up Firefox or whatever browser, and at that browser, you find out that you're supposed to launch a PDF, and that PDF has the malicious code. Well, as you can see from the bubble, you see the email is up at the left. The bubble is surrounding the email, and that's a little Appgard symbol on the lower right-hand side of the bubble. And as you go, that's the parent process. And as you go through the child processes, you see that Appgard is keeping the activity inside its isolation bubble so that nothing from the original parent activity is going to be allowed into the system until Appgard determines it is not a threat to the system space that it is used to protect.
Hi, Chris. Chris, before we move to the next slide, I just want to make one point that this protection never ceases. So if there's a delayed detonation 6 months later, 2 years later, it doesn't matter because this system will protect perpetually once that process is applied.
Michael, that is an excellent point, and I appreciate it. And this is why, and I know we're not here to do a sell job. We're here to talk about importance of cybersecurity to your organization. There are many different products you can buy. We're talking about one that we know very well, but the most important thing is that you demand from the people providing cybersecurity to you and to your organization explanations about issues about 0-day, about zero trust, about parent and child processes. You want to understand the extent to which your, excuse me, you want to understand the extent to which the product that you're being sold meets these criteria. So for instance, does a endpoint system prohibit applications from writing in protected resources? In other words, if I get an email and it's supposed to be telling me about some activities of my Rotary Club, is it going to my system root structure to make changes? Well, an email is not supposed to be making changes in the root file structure of my laptop. And for that reason, you want to be sure that it will stop before it ever gets to that point. As we continue here, you can all see that, and we can make this available. Here's how Appgard, which can be applied to servers, works. Obviously, servers don't have user space. It's administration, but servers are filled with system space, and the system space has a variety of potentially vulnerable programs that it is running at any one time. There are also, as I said before, about the normal processes. Those are in a trusted folder, but Appgard again scrutinizes the higher risk utilities inside the server to prevent any code that is in a server from corrupting the system as a whole. And so servers in that sense are an endpoint. They're not an endpoint because they're used by end users, but they're system resources, system assets, but they have to be protected because the first place malicious code is going to go after an endpoint is into the server structure of the organization. Let's continue on.
Chris, one thing I'd like to add here about the server coverage is that traditional EDRs typically do not work with servers because of think of the server load of constantly scanning a server. It's just not possible. So there needs to be another solution that's scalable so the server's allowed to perform at a high performance level, and that's where this particular product comes in.
Michael has raised the issue of scanning, and let's I don't know what the next slide is, but this is a very important point. Okay, here, no file scanning or data exfiltration. So if you have this much capacity on your system, you do not want this much of the capacity used up by your endpoint detection and response program. That only leaves you so much for your users. You want something on your system that is light. And so Appgard happens to be a kernel level application that is not, so that makes it very light on the system to begin with. Number two, because of its recognition of malicious activity by the attack, it is not scanning your system constantly to look for malware. It detects malware through that behavior, and it segments it away from the system. So it is not causing a it is not causing a use of your system to scan from beginning to end, and then to scan back again, and then just, believe it or not, there are approaches, and they work for some people, but in general, we don't have enough energy in the system to keep it. It ends up sapping the system, reducing the capability of your end user, because their processing capability is diminished by all of the scanning back and forth. You want also to stop the control of your organization by the hackers, okay? The hackers, when they are attacking you, they are seeking to control your organization. Either they are implanting ransomware that will infect your data and require you to pay Bitcoin to get your data back, which is horrible. And we have vast experience preventing ransomware attacks. Or they are trying to separate you from your data for some malicious purpose. That's not serving an independent India. That's not serving an independent organization, an independent university, company, person, family, or municipality at all. Okay. So all of cybersecurity is an attempt to protect against their taking over your organization. And what's that? There's another way that they take over your organization. And this is extremely expensive. When big programs learn of malware, and this is well after 0 day. So the other endpoint protectors find out about malware, and they start publishing, this is the malware, this is the signature of the malware, look out for this. And they get that back to their users. Then you have to start deploying all of that information to protect yourself. But number three, when folks are attacking, they are showing gaps in the system that they're using to attack. And when they show those gaps, Microsoft back in California, or Adobe, or any of those major programming organizations come up with patches. Patches then go out to your organization, and they have to be put into the system to patch the defense against that incoming attack, okay? So the organization learns there is an attack out there, it's exploiting this weakness, we need to defend against that attack. They turn that into a patch, and the patch comes back to your security operations center, your SOC. It's called a SOC, SOC. Those patches run into the hundreds for major global organizations. And in fact, in some years, they might move into the thousands. Every one of those patches is essentially a reprogramming of the system. Okay, so please stick with me. I talked about two earlier. This is their ability to take over your organization, number three, okay? By requiring you and your organization to patch all of these vulnerable spots, they are causing you to spend money on folks at the Security Operations Center to physically install those, and to do so pretty much 24/7. Because once the patch comes out, you've got to get it in to protect yourself from the known threat. Okay. That's what happens in detection and response. In prevention, when you are containing and segmenting the malware on 0 day without any knowledge of its signature, without any knowledge of the particular patch that's necessary, you have segmented that, and through the parent-child process, you've isolated any malware adaptation into your system for the polymorphic malware, the changing malware. Now your security operations center knows that something is segmented. Your people will know something is segmented on your laptop. They will know that. And eventually they get the patch like everybody else. They can install it on their own time, at their pace, at a time that makes sense for your organization, instead of installing it 1 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, etc. So there's an enormous organizational resource management benefit to preventing the attack before it ever takes place. And that's one reason why cybersecurity, I think, is moving decidedly into a prevention modality. And we think, obviously, since we've been there for 25 years, we think that's the right way to go. Let's just, thank you. Let's go to the next. I'll wrap up here in just 1 second. This is LinkGuard. I want you to know the second major product group is LinkGuard. I said that there was vulnerability at the endpoint. The vulnerability, now LinkGuard protects, imagine, communication between this unit and the server farm, okay? So in your organization, if you have an industrial internet of things, if you're dealing with entity or items inside your organization with discrete IP addresses, then they can be put into an enclave, and that enclave can essentially receive a direct line back to your servers, so that nothing goes into that direct line, nothing comes out of that direct line, and when it is done in accordance with our system, it disappears from view. So this is we're Border Guard, Link Guard. These are very high technology, 20 plus years, so 25 year, what we call high over high, highly classified material over high capacity infrastructure. And we've never, I say this with some pride, the products of Blue Ridge have never been reported on the National Vulnerability Database, never. So there have been no breaches with AppGard. Let's go to the next one. I think, do we have a graphic? Okay, so this is very quick. Let me just, on the left is your management system and essentially your servers. On the right is the enclave that I was mentioning. There are different ways to put together enclaves. Let's go to the next. This is, so we don't need this. Okay, good. This is, so this is excellent. But let's just say on your left-hand side here, you've got, on the left-hand side, you've got some closed circuit television, some security cameras. You've got some stanchions there, or, there's, all right. And so, and then that's Internet of Things. Okay, those are some discrete IP address processes. So what we do is we've got a linking system that goes on your side of the switch, okay? And we've got on the other side, these are two examples. And so you create an enclave, and these enclaves have to make sense. That's another, but you create the enclave, you put it on, we do that with you. We have to learn a lot about your organization, but put the hardware in to connect the elements of the enclave into one essentially funnel, and on your side of the switch. And then we establish the border guard on the other side over at the server level. And when we then activate now, so this is what is out there. This is what's out there in your organization, and hackers can see it. When you activate the system, you cannot see what's out there. And so we make your system disappear. And we make it disappear because if it cannot be seen by the attackers, then it cannot be hacked. And this is one of the reasons this has been so successful. All right. I think these are the 2 points that I wanted to make. Your endpoint is vulnerable, and it has to be protected from zero-day malware, not from established malware that everybody knows about. The biggest vulnerability is when no one knows what that malware is, and the best way to stop it is to segment it by its behavior. The second, and that's what Appgard does. The second point is all of our systems rely on critical infrastructure. And if you want to make your system disappear so that folks cannot even perceive its existence, then under the right circumstances, we can install LinkGuard. And it has been protecting, we can go through this, it has been protecting our most sensitive secrets for 25 years. And we would be very privileged to protect your secrets, to protect your digital assets, because that's how your organization can be independent. And if all of your organizations are independent, then that serves an independent India. And it's a real privilege to say Happy Independence Day from the United States to all of you there. Thank you very much.
Hello, Chris. One thing, I think just one good segue here before we give the floor back to Dr. and Ramesh would be to maybe talk about a couple of the case studies that of real life applications of where cybersecurity went wrong, or where maybe having a correctly protected system actually helped fix a problem. I know we have the Minnesota Sheriff's Office, have the Las Vegas example, a major Asian airline. Just a couple of just quick.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay, so let me talk about because it's cybersecurity, we don't really talk about customer names very much. You saw some logos, but the specific situations are always very sensitive. And I'll tell you, Michael has a big background in airlines, and there is a global carrier based in Japan whose name you would recognize, we'll say that. And they had an enormous problem with patches. They were patching constantly. And when they're patching, they're not doing other things. And when they're patching, they are putting their resources to work on the timetable of the hacker. So the patching was an enormous problem, and they investigated all endpoint protection. When they installed Appgard, after a matter of months, their use of the Security Operations Center went from this to this. Specifically, they went from 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day per year, to 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Why? Because they no longer have to install the patches when the malware is detected. Now, because of Appgard, the malware is contained, and it's not hurting anybody. They know about it, and when the patch comes from the program source, the OEM of the program, they install it on their time. So the savings to this global airline, whose name you would recognize, was many times the cost of their installation of AppGard. So AppGard comes in and it is in the system and it immediately stops 0-day attacks, other attacks as well, but it stops the 0-day. And by doing so, it eliminates their need for frenetic response to the intrusion. So that's a great example. We have many other patch examples. Michael, the New York City, this is a public entity, so we can say, the New York City Housing Authority has 7,000 endpoints. There are 7,000 people out there in New York City working for the Housing Authority. They never could maintain their system because they were endlessly installing patches. So they had no time to physically maintain the system, or let alone to improve the system. And this just became intolerable. And when that happened, they discovered Appgard. They've shifted from Appgard, from their past provider to Appgard. And now, once again, they've reclaimed their system. So the resources in the organization that are devoted to the schedule and the intentions of the attacker go down. And the resources and the attention and the effort in the system, in the organization, that go to the organization's need from its information technology skyrockets up. Now, Michael, do you want to talk about Las Vegas or about Minnesota?
Yeah, I'd like to talk about Las Vegas for sure. You know, it's kind of the tale of a fish tank. So let's put it this way, in short order, a fish tank ultimately caused a mega data breach for untold millions of dollars, essentially a heist against a casino of its personal data and monies. It was never truly revealed the extent of the damage for reputational harm, but it all started with a fish tank. In this IoT age, it's not uncommon for, let's say, a high-end fish tank to be controlled through a remote software that looks at the salinization of the water, the temperature of the water, oxygenization, all types of things to take care of the wildlife inside. So that's what was happening at a major casino in Las Vegas, and hackers found a way to get into a fish tank that was sitting in Las Vegas but managed out of California. That meant that there was an exposed IP address, and that alone, one IP address, was all it took for hackers to be able to, and probably using an old OS, so the operating system was probably older and didn't have the patch management one might need. The system was they were able to actually penetrate through that IP address and penetrate servers and get into that system space and do their harm. So it's every IP address is a potential hazard.
Right. Yeah, and Michael, in that case, not only was there untold damage to the system, but because we're talking about Las Vegas, it's a private company that owns that casino. Hundreds of millions of dollars may have been stolen. Obviously millions of dollars, but the amount of money that they had in their system that was vulnerable once somebody penetrated was in the hundreds of millions of dollars. So that's a terrific example of the vulnerability of endpoints and cyber and critical infrastructure. And so you're seeing, folks, the story behind each of the major hacks that you read about in the newspaper always goes down to a penetration somewhere in the fringes of the system. It's never at the heart of the system. unless you have sabotage, which we are not in the business of preventing sabotage. So the sabotage takes place at the heart of the system. All opportunistic attacks take place at the endpoints of the system or in the infrastructure that's carrying between the endpoints and the heart. So what you have to really internalize is, if there are two places you want to defend off the bat, the first is at the fringe, at the endpoint, and the second is the communication mechanisms between those endpoints and the servers at the heart of your system. Many more examples, but perhaps there are questions. I see Mr. Ramesh.
Yes, it's Chris.
I am, do you want to read the question? You want to select the question and read it? How would you like to proceed? Thank you very much for everybody's time.
Yeah, you can take up the question directly from the chat box and answer it.
Okay.
So does your
okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Please post your question. Okay. Does your product protect public-facing infrastructure? You spoke about endpoint. I've not heard about. So the answer is Appgard is very strong, and thank you, Mr. Raju. Thank you, Mr. Raju. Appgard is particularly strong in endpoints, in ATMs, in point of sale infrastructure, cannot be beat. And we are, and in servers. Those are the areas where Appgard has been most widely adopted. So we are in those, when you're talking about any stanchion that is facing the public, that is connected to the system, we can protect that. And those are vulnerable if they have discrete IP addresses. So our answer would be that we would love to hear your situation and then continue on and talk. And by the way, if anybody is interested in stories of hacks, we have many of them, and you are welcome to our website at clearspanstrategic.com. And so that's that. Thank you. Michael, do you have cloud infrastructure? Yes, we are moving in that. We do have this on cloud infrastructure as a service, absolutely. There are major corporations whose every server, cloud and other, are protected, and we are beginning to deploy. We are in the stages of deploying from the cloud, and so that's a very important point. Thank you. Is there cyber insurance in the U.S.?
Yeah, Chris, I'd like to take this for just a moment.
Please do.
There's two ways to look at cyber insurance. The answer is yes. There's two ways to approach cyber insurance. One is to use your existing cybersecurity stack and pay a premium to an insurance agency. The other way is to use preventative cybersecurity and not pay an insurance premium. And then so there's two ways to look at insurance. One is to prepare yourself for financial loss and get reimbursed for that loss by doing traditional cyber insurance, which there are providers in the US. But the other is to make preventative cybersecurity your priority, because if you do preventative cybersecurity, you're protecting yourself and you're not making insurance companies rich. You're enriching the protection of your own network. Anything else you want to add on cyber insurance, Chris?
No, I think that cyber insurance is a growth industry. And I think what you'll find in the fees or the premiums that are required is that certain products are going to generate lower premiums because they have never been penetrated. And when you're using a certain, we have different levels of insurance. The person who drives the Toyota does not pay the same insurance as the person who drives the Jaguar, okay, for a variety of reasons. Well, the person who uses Appgard is presenting much less risk to the organization than the person who's using less comprehensive means of protecting their digital assets. Does the investment depend on the size of the digital assets or the no? Okay, yeah, that's, I thank you very much, Mr. Narshari.
Rahari.
Thank you. So let me say that let me just, since many of you are probably business people and you are confronting these issues, there are a couple of very important points. First of all, you might have a fair amount of consultations that take place after a proof of concept. Proof of concept usually means that a small part of the system, a small part of the solution is loaded onto your system and you see how it works in real time. It goes on about 2, 3, 4 weeks. And you sort of, if you're very interested, or else you wouldn't have it loaded into your system. There are a lot of non-disclosure agreements that go with that. And if you see it working with your system, then that might lead you to say, okay, I want to buy this. Okay. So after the proof of concept, there could be a period of consultation. And then there is, there's define, and then you design, and you design what the response is going to be. Couple of major issues. Who will manage your organization's deployment? So your organization, if you have a security operations center, that's your SOC, they will likely manage it. If you do not have a SOC, let's just say you're 120 employees and you don't have a security operations center, that's okay. You will want the freedom to have the provider manage the deployment or a third party. If you're a 150 employee organization in Bangalore, you probably have an IT consultant. The IT consultant knows your system. It might be best for your organization to have the IT consultant who you've known for years and who you trust, might be best for them to manage your system, okay? On the other hand, for whatever reason, you might prefer that the original equipment manufacturer, that's in this case, Blue Ridge, Clearspan, et cetera, that they manage your system. So the prices are going to, there will be a price for you managing, there will be another price for third party managing, and there will be another price for the original equipment manufacturer managing. That's one important breakpoint. The other breakpoint is, if you have 100, probably will pay more per seat. If you have 100 employees, you'll be paying more per seat than if you have 1,000 employees. So what you're looking at is a per employee per year fee for this service. And that will likely decline per employee with the greater number of employees. So that makes sense. So only 100, it's going to be this much. But you have 10,000, it will end up being this much because it's a much bigger deployment. And I think getting back to, I think one of the key points that I would like to leave you all with, and I'm not happy to take another question or two, but I think one of the key points here is you want to know what the benefits are going to be to the rest of your organization. If you're able to take people who are working in the security operations center, and you're able to put them onto work that is important to you instead of patch management, that is an enormous benefit. And I think that as you're beginning to understand, as you're beginning to hear from this presentation, we believe that that is true, that is beneficial for all concerned, that is fair, and that it really, in those senses, meets the traditional Rotary four-way test. And so I really thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ramesh and Dr. Ilan, and thank you, Michael Stelwag. Thanks to all of you. And if you come to Chicago, please find me, and I will take you to the site of that building, and you can see the plaque that we have in Chicago. We're very proud. This is the first meeting of Rotary. Please come.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chris. This is Mr. Chris Robling, founder of Clearspan Strategic, and also former Chicago Commission of Elections. And also thanks to Michael Stelwag. He's Principal Clearspan Strategic USA and Middle East. And now we have with us Rotarian Nagendra Prasad, District Governor, District 3190. Now I would request Nagendra Prasad to unmute.
While we're waiting for that, I'd like everyone to know that if you ever have any questions about what you've heard today, or want a copy of the presentation, you can send us an email at info@clearspanstrategic.com. And we also have an India website, which is clearspanstrategic.com/India. Look forward to hearing from you.
Rotarian Nagendra Prasad started his career as a Rotaractor, and he became a Rotarian, and he's very actively Rotarian for this Rotary District 790. So apart from that, he's a rich legacy of a business career that has won him awards and many various recognitions. He's a gold medal for won the gold medal for providing a low-cost housing sites by Council for Industrial and Trade Development, and Bharatiya Nava Nirmana Puraskar by All India Business Community Foundation. And he's an Indian Achievers Award for Real Estate and Infrastructure. He's an Entrepreneur of the Year in 2015 by Bangalore Management Association. So he has achieved a lot of things in business life also. So now I request Rotarian Nagendra Prasad.
Thank you, Ramesh Shivana, Rotarian Ramesh Shivana.
Thank you.
First of all, happy 74th Independence Day to each one of you.
Thank you.
On this, lot of programs have been happening in our district, one after one. From morning, I have been out with a lot of inauguration of projects, and also the lot of programs like blood donation camps, tree planting, and also giving away food packets for this COVID victims, medicines. So many things have been happening, and I was there from morning. So I'm so happy that our Rotarians are so active, even at this part of COVID time on the online. They have been doing fantastic work, and they have adapted to this online. And when we are talking of online and talking of all the infrastructure which is there, the one question which comes is this cyber, which is the most dangerous thing. And I think today's the topic was very apt, Ramesh. I would congratulate you. I know you're a Rotarian from a couple of years, but starting a new club again this year, Green Park, and start having a lot of initiative, one after one, and everything is quite useful to all of us, and I congratulate you for that. And I also thank these all the speakers who are there on online. And only because of this COVID, I would say that a lot of opportunities. Rotary opens opportunities, which is the theme for this year. A lot of opportunities have been created for us on online to bring in great speakers like today, who could give us insight of many things which are happening around the world and what has to be done by us. And really, I thank each one of you. And Rotary 3190 is very active, far as this, even at this part of COVID, not only helping the COVID victims, they have been there doing a lot of projects. It's a polio, it's a blood donation camp. And you know that we started a 300-bed COVID hospital with the help of CSR from Titan Group. And then, today another 40 lakhs was given for the Nimans Hospital for the COVID equipment. And we inaugurated this also today morning. So, the great things have been happening in Rotary 3190. And I congratulate each one of you. And the topic chosen for today is the very apt topic. And I thank once again Ramesh Shivana and all the group. And I wish you all the best. And I'm sure we'll start adopting all the new technologies as it comes, which is the most important thing.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. In such a busy schedule, you have taken a time out to join us. Thank you very much for your support in the District 3190. Sir, too, I think probably you would have heard is Mr. Chris Robling. He's from Chicago. In fact, he was talking about more about the Chicago, the first building which Rotary started. He has also offered, invitation to all of us, all the Rotarians, to visit Chicago and to meet him, and he is going to host anything local requirement. So we can be in touch with him. And now I would request Mr. Shravan is a cybersecurity specialist, and he is an ethical hacker.
So thank you for this opportunity for presenting me this presentation. I will start with one important quotation. So this quotation is like this. So the only system which is truly secure is one which is switched off and unplugged, locked in a titanium safe, buried in a concrete bunker, and is surrounded by nerve gas and very highly paid armored guards. Even then, I wouldn't stake my life on it. So this is a quotation by Professor Gene Spafford. So what he meant was, no system in this entire world is absolute secure. So we are only trying to build comfort levels because security costs money and lack of it costs much more. So as we can see here, the Indian cybersecurity trends. So where do we stand? So if you just look at the stats here, rupees 131 million is the number of cybercrime victims in India in 2019 compared with 350 million worldwide. So that is approximately quarter of the stats. And each and every year there are 1.24 trillion is the amount which is being lost in India from past 12 months due to cybercrime. And 81% of Indians are alarmed about their privacy, and this is highest compared to any other countries with global average of being 67%. And 4 out of 10 consumers in India have experienced identity theft, and this has impacted around 10% of the people from past year. And if you look at the major security hacks in India, as we can see, the first one is Cosmos Bank cyber attack in Pune, where hackers siphoned off around 98 crore rupees. And the second one is ATM system hacked in Canara Bank, and the hackers, they were used to siphon off around 20 lakhs from each of the account. And third one is UIDA Aadhaar software hack. As we all know, around 1 billion data records have been leaked already. And there is one more hack on Indian healthcare websites recently in 2019, where 68 health records have been exposed from hackers.
Shravan, you
there
did
is
not
also a
mention
swim
the
swap
name of the customer.
scam.
Please don't mention the name of the customer, okay?
Sure.
For security reasons.
And this is the safety of Indian network. As we can see here, India stands at 11th position. That means 21.8% of the Indian computers are already malware infected. So that means Indian computers needs a robust solution where we can actually prevent the hacks from happening, and we can prevent the malwares, trojans, virus from entering into our systems. I think Appgard can easily do it. And if you want to look at the ways how cybercrime happens in India, the first one is hacking. As we all know, it is an unauthorized attempts to bypass the security mechanism and then enter into an information system or network. And data theft, as I have explained in previous slide, the leak of UI, ADI, or any other of these health records from hospitals. All of this comes under data theft. And in order to keep our system secure, we have to make sure that virus or worms, malwares, or Trojan horses, they should be prevented from entering into our systems. And identity theft. Yeah, this we can prevent this one as well using the Appgard and email spoofing. So as Chris explained in his presentation, whenever a user receives an email, so when there is a file which is affected from a virus, if it is inside this particular email, Appgard can easily prevent it by not bypassing it. And there are botnets on zombies where the systems which are already infected are called as zombies. And this is scareware. So these are the cybersecurity incidents in Indian experience. So as we can see the stats here, cybercrime in India has resulted in 29.9 million people being victim of cybercrime, involving in direct financial losses of around 4 billion and 3.6 billion in terms of time spent in resolving that cybercrime. And 4 out of 5 online adults, that means 80% of victims are for cybercrime, and 70% of adults online experience the same thing in mobile phones. And this is the source from Norton Cybercrime Report. So if we see why this is happening, particularly in India, these are the reasons. So India is a very large country with 121 million internet users. And in that, there are 65 million active internet users, up from 28% from 51 million in 2010. And 50 million users shop online on e-commerce and online shopping sites. So that leads, that is like 50 million endpoints. And there are 46 million plus social network users as well. And as per the source of IAMAI 2011, 400 million mobile users had subscribed to data packages. So this is the future trends. So trends which suggest where the cybercrime world is going in India. So as we can see, in future, definitely there'll be some countries which become safe havens for criminals, and there is no international single policy to crack down one particular cybercrime. And it is believed that in next few years, governments are definitely going to take strict action and make a policy specifically for cybercrime regardless of this location. And it is also likely that governments will start putting pressure on intermediaries that have skills and resources such as banks, internet service providers, and software giants to protect public from malware, hacking, and social engineering. And I definitely think Appgard will have a major role to play here. And this is the final quote: "It is not the strongest of the species that survive, the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change." That means it's time we all need to change for the trends of cybersecurity.
Advanced persistent threats, yes. There's a question from Mr. Prashant to everyone. Let's see. Does the solution cover advanced persistent threats for commodity malware? Does this solution have security automation? Okay, so where known signatures and hashes can be executed by shots. Okay, so the answer to that question is Appgard does act against advanced persistent threats. So I'm going to interpret advanced and persistent as a targeted polymorphic. Targeted because somebody has decided that your organization is of interest to them. And they might have internal knowledge, they might have some external reason, but they have targeted your organization. And I'm going to say polymorphic because, as we said earlier, sometimes the advanced malware will keep trying until it penetrates. And the beauty, and I would say the principal benefit of Appgard is that it can, by recognizing the behavior and containing the malware it remains on your system. It's talking to no one. It's there until your security operations center removes it, but you don't have to worry because it's contained. And so it will continue its polymorphic evolution. So at one try, in the first, it'll go after the root structure, go after the file structure, it'll try to cross to the system space. Each one of those, it's doing that inside its containment zone, and not one of those is succeeding. So that's the thought process. And for that reason, we don't need I think you were asking about executed by shots or people are wondering about bots and things like this. When the malware is identified by Appgard, by its activity, its behavior, its attempt to get to the system space, and it's then contained, it can do whatever it wants. It's not getting out. There are clients of Appgard who have had malware on endpoints for up to 5 years. Doesn't do anything. And because of the size of Appgard, it's not making any impression on their system as a whole. Okay, sorry. Happy Independence Day. It's a real privilege to be with you on your Independence Day, by the way. Information session, thank you. Okay, cross-site, good evening all. Cross-site scripting and how can it be prevented? I'm gonna get a more technical person to answer that question for you. So if we're able, Michael, to keep in touch with Dr. Sunil B, then we'll answer that question. Again, thank you very much. Thanks to all.
Yes, Sunil B, if you could just write your email address, we'll be able to get back to you with an answer. Anything that's unanswered, we're happy to come back to you with. We've already got a couple of such questions. So that's great. Just give us your email address and we'll be happy to address your question.
Shravan, can you answer to questions made by Buster, please?
Yes, sir, I can.
Yeah, please.
If possible, I can just show you the demo. So cross-site scripting, it's nothing but inserting a JavaScript code in a web page. So, okay, for example, let's go to Wikipedia. For example, you see a search button here. So if you're able to write some JavaScript code inside of this particular search bar and then search for it, if the JavaScript code is executed, then your server is unstable and you have to prevent it from cross-site scripting. So there are many methods in cross-site scripting like DOM. So what you have to do is you have to prevent the users from doing it. So it's nothing but an HTML form scripting. That's all.
Thank you, Shravan. Thank you very much. Now I think we are running short of time, so we will take up the closing remarks. I would request Mr. Chinta Shamsundar. He's the CEO of Clearspan Strategic India. So I request him to give a closing remarks.
Shravan, you want to add something very interesting that Versted, he asked, where statistics is alarming. What should we do to protect us?
Sir, I think Appgard is capable of preventing all of these attacks.
Why Appgard? Can you explain?
Yes, sir, definitely. Because see, just as Chris mentioned, the other antivirus softwares or other antivirus solutions, they are based on a signature pattern.
Yes.
So so how Appgard prevents is, so Appgard, it gets triggered by a process of that particular Trojan or virus. So like that, Appgard is able to prevent it.
So the typical antivirus,
it doesn't work based on signature patterns.
Okay. So the typical antivirus softwares available in the market, is it superior or it can give the total protection against the threats and theft?
No, it cannot protect against the zero-day threats, because zero-day vulnerabilities, they're vulnerabilities which no one knows about. So zero days vulnerabilities, they are very specific to a particular software. So all antivirus softwares, they cannot prevent against the 0 day vulnerabilities. So what Appgard does is it actually detects and it keeps the threats there itself it won't be able to run again.
I would like to thank Mr. Christopher Robley. I know it's too early for you to get up the weekend, and thank you once again. Really, you did a great job, and very informative. Your presentation and the product and the technology, as well. Michael Stelbach. We are all in different zones of timing, and everyone is joined on this the great day of Independence Day of India. Actually, this is the topic proposed by Ramesh Shivanda. What we are looking for in India on this day of Independence Day, are we are secured with the informations, or we are protected with what our devices we have connected to all the network systems? That's what Shravan was telling. Almost it is not. Almost more than 80% is vulnerable. So we need to look for alternate technology. Thanks for explaining, Chris, your years of experience in this technology of cyber security, since from the government applications as well as the private industry. As well, Michael, thank you for your intervention as always. Your experience in all the corporate in Middle East and North Africa, including the United States. And I would like to add on this day, I hope we have few minutes. I want to add up, Ramesh.
Yes, I think Shyam is also on. I think after immediately Shyam will take also speak.
Just will make one intervention, and Shyam can conclude the word of thanks.
Okay.
The Weizmann Institute, one of the most prestigious medical research institute in the world, predicted how the cyber security is affecting physically the human health. Just we are talking about our threats to the systems and technologies. I would like to mention just 1 second about how it affects our health by the cyber security. One simple example, you can see all over India and all over the world, the lighting systems which have the charge controller. You can operate, I think Mike gave indirect way in Las Vegas, but I can say you here, most of the street lamps or decorative lamps in the home or any intelligent lamps are controlled by Wi-Fi. I hope we all agree. So what makes the sense to the health? If any hacker, unethical hacker, he want to enter into the system either to switch off or to put up in a particular heads intermittent light very frequently, which increases the seizure, I mean epileptic. This is so dangerous. So the system is very open, the charge controller. If unethical hacker, if he can enter through his Wi-Fi to the system as on today, it is, I am telling in India also, it is very important to have some security measures for lighting system, because it looks very nice, it looks very technological. At the same time, we should aware of our own vulnerability, because we are not protecting the home or devices with a sustainable, with adequate software systems, or we need products and technology like Appgard, as you experienced in this lecture. What we need today, a system that should protect and prevent, it should forecast and diagnose. I think this is one of the greatest technological products. If anyone interested, please, you are most welcome to visit the website www.clearspanstrategic.com. Sorry, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Sham?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can I continue now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. It's a privilege and a great joy for me to extend a vote of thanks to all those who have contributed to make this webinar a grand success. First, I would like to propose thanks to Dr. Ilan Kupuswamy, President of Peri and Chairman Clearspan Strategic India for gracing today's webinar. Thank you, Dr. Ilan, for your interesting and thought-provoking address. I would like to extend my thanks to distinguished speaker and guest, Mr. Nagendra Prasad, District Governor, Rotary International, for his address and his presence for this webinar. I would like to express my profound gratitude to Mr. Chris Roebling, founder Clearspan Strategic LLC USA. In fact, it is very interesting and enriching experience while watching his presentation. And of course, Rotary has connected many of us worldwide. And I am thrilled to see the old building which had hosted the first meeting of Rotary. In his address, he clearly said that prevention is better than cure. And protection against zero-day malware is very important for all the businesses to have business continuity. And Chris is right too, that in a sense that to improve stakeholder confidence and improve company credentials, it is very important to have correct security controls in place. Thank you very much for your presentation, Chris. We really appreciate your presence and time. I also extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Michael, Principal Clearspan Strategic LLC USA. Thank you, sir, for your time and the product demonstration. It is very clear that in order to have business continuity and improved information security, we have no other option but to have right security in place, cyber security in place. Please note that individual privacy in the networked boundaryless world is a utopian thought, and therefore cyber safety and security is essential. Blue Ridge and Clearspan Strategic could resolve the current problems of cyber threats. If anyone is interested, please do get in touch with us. I also would like to extend my thanks to Shravan Kumar, Cyber Security Specialist. Thanks, Shravan, for your time and supporting this webinar and also interesting statistics about India. I also would like to extend my sincere thanks and gratitude to Mr. Ramesh, President Rotary Bangalore Green Park, for his initiative on moderating this event. I also appreciate your zeal and enthusiasm in organizing successful webinars like this. Ramesh, thanks for this new initiative, and I look forward to hearing new ideas, new perspectives to cybersecurity related challenges and awareness enhancing discussions with the cybersecurity gurus around the world in coming days. Last but not least, I also would like to thank all participants who made this event a grand success. Thank you again for being with us this evening and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.